What is the weirdest thing you have ever caught a coworker doing? I have a coworker who has small toys that make sounds when you squeeze them, cows, pigs, etc. He likes to open them up carefully and switch devices that create the sound. Like some sort of Mengele or Dr. Moreau, he creates ducks that moo and pigs that bark. It's horrific. By far the funniest comment on here. A long time ago I caught a female squatting and pee into a mop bucket in a hallway that was used for janitor storage as well. She was wearing a skirt type thing, and when she was done, she just got up and walked away like nothing happened. She never saw me and probably didn't care either. I'm pretty sure a skirt type thing is just called a skirt. A coworker brought breakfast tacos in one morning, and by afternoon all that was left was the salsa in 3 little plastic jello shot-like containers. One of the Mormon attorneys walked by, saw the salsa, picked one up and took it down like a shot, then kept walking like it was no big deal. We call him Party Mormon now. Just burst out laughing in the front row of my operations management class. Can't stop imagining 2 Mormons knocking on my door, and I'm just like, not these guys again, and then they bust in and just start ripping shots. Comedy. I worked as a chef in restaurant, and there was this guy working as food runner. Brings food from kitchen to the waiter's station and then waiters bring it to the tables. He was amazing. Doing everything in slow motion. Completely not suitable for the kind of work he was supposed to do. So, it was an insanely busy night. Everyone is working their butt off and at one moment the food is starting to pile up in the kitchen. Nobody takes it to the floor. Food runner is missing. Nobody could find him. Everyone is starting to get really pissed off. Manager has to do his job. So, I go to the back of restaurant thinking maybe something wrong happened, maybe his was lifting something and injured himself or whatever. And we had a corridor in the back where all the beer kegs were, and I hear Latin music coming from there. I hide behind the corner and the guy is playing music from his phone and practicing some salsa steps. I went back and asked everyone to come to see this, so finally there is like 10 people behind the door, and the guy is completely oblivious just dancing there. Finally he turns around, sees all the what the frick dude looks and goes, I just can't get the rhythm figured out, man. 0 fricks was given there. That reminds of the time I was in a play and one of the actors missed a scene because he was backstage trying to learn how to moonwalk. Everyone in the play felt bad for the guy though, so we all banded together and said that he missed the scene because he lost his contact lens. Not a coworker but works in the office opposite mine and we share toilets. Every single day this guy goes into a cubicle, leaves the door wide open. With his right hand he is reeling out toilet paper. With his left he is texting. Not too sure how he is holding his equipment or aiming either. Then proceeds to go to the dryer and dries his hands for a good 3 seconds before leaving. Doesn't wash his hands. Just dries them, leaving me only to assume he is drying the pee off his hands. Disgusting. Maybe he's just more evolved. Caught one of my managers yelling at an employee, but the bizarre thing was that he was yelling at him for following company policies. The guy got in trouble for doing everything correctly and doing exactly what he was trained to do. Not sure if weird or brilliant. I used to work at a lab with an Australian. Sometimes I'd see his office light off and door closed, but I didn't notice him leave. So once in a meeting, I noticed a pillow under his desk. That's when I realized he took naps under his desk. Eating beef jerky dipped in cottage cheese every day at lunch. She explained to me that she could no longer taste anything after some health complications and just liked the texture. Not exactly caught, but one time we worked with this weirdo that would eat super insanely old food, like 6-month expired graham crackers, and those take a long butt time to expire in the first place. Anyway, one time we left half of a large double pepperoni pizza out in the back office for 6 days unrefrigerated, and when he came in to clock in one day, he asked if we, the managers, were going to eat it. We had forgotten all about the pizza, and told him as much and that it was definitely not safe to eat anymore, but he insisted and took it home with him after his shift. He didn't die, but I can't imagine it sat well. Hey, I've been that poor before. It's not fun. Hardcore lurker so don't have an account. Made a toss off simply for this. I used to work in an office with a communal printer photocopier scanner thing. One of those big leased Xerox jobs. Anyway, it lived in its own little room at the end of the hall with other print supplies, and anyone on the floor could use it. I sent a job there and got busy with other things. Probably about 10 minutes before I went down there, I walked to the room and noticed that one of my co-workers, nice girl, early 30s, was at the machine trying to scan a job, so I just queued in behind her to wait. She must have not known I was there. Carpeted floors, because I swear to God I witnessed a glitch in the matrix. Her scan wasn't working, so she gave the little machine a little tap and said stupid machine. Normal. Then she said it again. Stupid machine. She started repeating it, with emphasis on different parts of the words. Stupid machine. Stupid machine. Stupid machine. Stupid machine. She started messing with the tone of the words, rising and falling inflections in non-standard places, like Chinese. Then she said it 3 times, really high and fast, and finished by saying each syllable really drawn out in a crazy, growly deep monster voice. Stupid machine. At that time, she must have sensed me. I don't know how, as I was frozen and holding my breath, trying to understand what was happening in front of me. She spun around and locked eyes with me, and for 1 second I think she was considering killing me to keep the secret safe. I didn't know what was happening. Was she even human? Did I just witness a glitch in the programming of an unbelievably advanced android? Then she turned beet red, whispered oh my god, and ran from the room. I was standing in the doorway, and she literally shoved me out of the way into the wall in the hallway and tore off down the hall. I didn't follow her, and I heard later then she had gone home for the day in tears. She must have been so embarrassed. We never spoke of it. In fact, she was never able to speak to me or even look at me again. Anytime I saw her, she would flush red and dive for the nearest exit. I never mentioned it to anyone in the office, but her odd behavior towards me was noted by everyone. I'm sure everyone in the office thought that we had slept together. To this day I'm 50 as to whether or not she's an android. Either that, or people are just weird as frick. She probably had a crush on you, or crippling social anxiety. I work outside, so if you have to drop a deuce, you just find a bush. Anyway, I caught my co-worker smelling his own crap tickets, like the one he just wiped his butt with. Upvote because crap tickets. One of my friends came out the men's room at work, sweating, and started laughing saying enjoy your crap. I just jerked off in there. He was the best man at my wedding. Joke's on him, you were going in there to jack off, too. Trying to crap into a toilet while halfway up a ladder. This could be a sport. Poopers get judged on height, poop size, and splash radius. Picking his nose, but I guess lost the target in the caverns. Forcibly exhaled and I saw it hit the desk. He looked around, scooped the tectonic plate up off the desk and chomped down on it. I raise you a kid in school who picked his nose, divided the pieces he got out and placed them by size on his table. He then started to eat them by starting with the smallest and working his way up. I used to deliver pizza in college. One of my delivery driver friends came into work all freaking out. He looks at me all bug-eyed and giggles. I just took a whole bunch of mushies, man. They just started hitting me, and I'm peeking. Well, time to go clock in for my delivery shift. When I worked at a grocery store, I walked into the non-foods department office in the back and found one of my co-workers chugging cans of Slim Fast with his pants down around his ankles. Shooting the garlic butter from Papa John's pizza like it was shots of tequila. He would also do that with the ranch dressing cups from Wendy's. In high school I worked at a Wendy's fast food place. The only people working at the time was my manager, a friend of mine, and myself. Well, said friend had to pee really badly, but the manager said he couldn't go because he had to finish cleaning something. Well, my friend asked a few times and still got denied. So he then tells the manager he will be right back and he was going to the back to get cleaning supplies. Well, 45 seconds go by and my manager goes looking for the guy. All I hear is what the frick? This is a food place, for Christ's sake. Get out. Get the heck out. My friend starts hauling butt with the biggest grin on his face. I walk back to see what my manager had saw, and in his hand was a plastic frosty cup filled with pee. I was almost fired for laughing so dang hard. Had a co-worker who was also a health sex ed teacher who would constantly bring in her students' tests and grade them on the counter in full view of the customers. Every other week she would test her kids on the male anatomy like she was obsessed with it or something. One time she was talking to someone and she was like, "Can't you believe my students didn't know what the scrotum was? What a dong." When I worked in retail there was this one kid who was a little bit off. Actually his whole family worked for the same company but I guess he was the strangest of them. He pretty regularly recited movie lines when he thought he was alone, even though he made no real effort to check. Like all the time, if you walked into a room and he happened to enter it after you and you weren't immediately in his line of sight, he would start doing characters and voices and everything. Whenever he would notice you were there, he would just act as though he had no idea why he even came into the room even if he did have a reason to be there. He would just leave, do a lap around the store and go right back in to try again. In my former life, I was a vet tech. I caught a co-worker huffing gas from the anesthetic machine. She was acting all weird and out of it and I figured it out when I caught her soaking up gas on cotton balls and huffing. She started to swing at me when we asked her to sit down but thought better of it. Then I had the pleasure of pulling a doctor out of a room with a client to tell him. Needless to say, she lost her job. My CEO cycles to the office, so it's quite common to see him in his underwear walking around the office changing clothes and putting some deodorant. Great, now I want to be a CEO so I can walk around in my underpants at work without anyone telling me not to. I worked in an ice cream seafood place. There was this guy that tried stealing the soft serve machine. What a strange combination of culinary themes. So I used to work at this really high-end resort. My position was at the front desk of the hotel, but we worked really closely with the spa portion of the resort, making their appointments, printing forms, etc. The manager of the spa at the time was a known worshipper of nature. I really have no idea. All I know is what she told us and, later, what we all witnessed. One day, during really heavy rain that had been going on for days, a small bird flew into one of the spa building's windows and died. The manager called me at the front desk in a frenzy, telling me to come outside and help her return the bird to nature. I refused to walk the 50 yards to the spa in the torrential downpour to witness her doing whatever she was going to do to this bird. I hung up the phone and kind of forgot about it. Now, this resort is a colonial style resort on a very large portion of land. There is a lot of rolling hills and wooded areas. A rather large wooded area was directly behind the spa. About 20 minutes later, a guest came up to the desk and asked me to come outside. She said she had a massage appointment, but that she thought something might be wrong. I went outside to find said spa manager kneeling in the mud in this downpour with her forehead resting on a weird mound of moss that she had clearly gathered from somewhere. Inside the ball of moss was the dead bird. I said the manager's name as I, the guest, and a couple of other employees stood behind her. When I spoke, she bolted upright, scooped up the bird and started full-blown sprinting down this hill toward the woods, all while screaming "Be free." Well, I guess she didn't account for the rain, the mud, or the huge ditch in the hill, because she hit it running at top speed. She was not a small woman and we watched in horror as she slipped feet overhead, rolled and bounced all the way to the bottom, and landed in a rain-filled gully at the edge of the woods. The guest stared at me and asked if she could leave early without paying the penalty. I said of course. The spa manager came back in the next day, job still intact, and acted like nothing ever happened. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.